A member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for.
That was some of the explosive testimony from William Taylor, the acting ambassador to Ukraine. For what it's worth, President Trump denied what Taylor said. Taylor was talking about Gordon Sondland, the U.S. ambassador to the EU, who is a huge Trump and GOP donor before he joined the State Department. That one soundbite, it tells us so much. The shadow State Department run by Rudy Giuliani, the president playing politics with U.S. foreign policy, and an ambassador apparently in cahoots with the president. My next guest, Joel Rubin, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Obama administration, and he joins us now. All right, Joel, first off, put in context, if you're Zelensky, you're Ukraine right now, and it's made clear to you, if you believe Taylor and you believe Kent and the others that will testify Friday and next week, that you want the $400 million, you better all of a sudden not only launch an investigation into Hunter Biden and what was going on with Burisma, but also you better do a press conference on CNN to make sure the world knows it. Talk about the pressure that Zelensky would be under given his neighbors to just over the border.
Yeah, Richard, it was a real classic shakedown. And if you're Zelensky, you're under enormous pressure. First and foremost, and this is why the House Democrats have laid out the hearings in this structure. First and foremost, Ukraine is in a hot war right now with Russia. 13,000 Ukrainians have died defending their country, and they look to the United States to protect them. Imagine if or Israel, for example, in the 73 war, when it was getting invaded by the Arab nations around it, the American president said, yeah, I'll send you extra military hardware to protect you, but wait, I need to have you do a favor for me that's going to help me personally. It's preposterous. So Zelensky, he felt that pressure. He's in a hot war domestically. He's a new president. He needs to have credibility at home. He's likely going to break and do what the president of the United States wants.
Now, take me to Moscow. I gotta imagine this is manna from heaven. You couldn't ask for more, destabilizing, obviously, that part of the world. And the idea, and we're hearing more accounts of it right now, that the president repeatedly, not just with this, but other examples, particularly concerned what Moscow thinks about our military presence and our support, even though they're our ally here, but almost checking with the Kremlin first before he acts.
Well, yeah, he's calling the Home Office in Moscow for direction, and they're toasting lots of vodka consumption now in the Kremlin for what their return on investment is getting from the 2016 campaign. President Trump has given Russia Syria. He tried to deliver Ukraine to Russia as well. Even in that press conference in the UN, at the UN General Assembly in New York in September with Zelensky, he publicly said, you should get together with Vladimir Putin. That's like saying get together with the person who's holding a gun to your head and cut a deal. It's just ludicrous, and there are multiple examples. And so what we saw today was Bill Taylor, our ambassador. He has been one of the architects for decades now of American policy towards Ukraine to push back against Russian aggression into Europe. And so for him, this is real deep. And he's a person who was initially appointed ambassador, initially brought in and appointed to senior roles by Ronald Reagan. And then he was appointed ambassador by George W. Bush to Ukraine. So he's not some softy liberal Democrat. This is a hard-nosed diplomat. And he is facing, and he faced, and this is why he was so concerned, a presidential set of activities that were helping Moscow rather than hurting Moscow.
And to that end, Taylor was asked to take the gig. He was talked out of retirement by Pompeo. Obviously, the president's choice to run state, the idea that he or Kent or some of the others we're going to hear from are never Trumpers or whatever is a fraud. And that brings me to my last question. If you're a diplomat, if you were a public servant in the United States serving us abroad, you're not doing it for the paycheck, Lord knows, and you see what's going on, not just in back channels, but publicly having your patriotism called out and being labeled a partisan hack when you're risking your career to go forward, I hear morale is terrible at state, but I can imagine it's only getting worse by the day.
Yeah, Richard, I was a career officer at State for 5 years in the Bush administration and then came back as an appointee in the Obama administration. I've served overseas in the Peace Corps. You got to have your commander-in-chief behind you, and they have to have your back. And the example, and we'll hear it on Friday with Ambassador Yovanovitch, she was fired, but she wasn't just fired. She was told that she was under a security threat, not from a foreign actor, but essentially from the President of the United States. So our diplomats, this president views as pawns in his game. He doesn't really care, as you point out with Ambassador Taylor. Probably didn't even know that he appointed him. He just doesn't seem to care about American diplomacy. So for our men and women who serve and take the oath to the Constitution, today was a good day for them. Depressing as it may be, because they stood up for the Constitution, they stood up for the United States, and they're proud and dignified in what they do, and we saw that today.
Joel Rubin, thank you for a few minutes today, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, when we come back, we're going to have more highlights from today's historic hearings, including some of the most headline-grabbing testimony from the witnesses.